I made a video about 6 months ago about the phenomenon of underwhelming album covers in K-pop specifically, and I bring this discussion back up again because someone recently left a comment regarding Charli XCX's BRAT album cover that really has me thinking about this whole discussion again. So K-Pog left a comment that says, "Funny how much 6 months changes because given the BRAT summer craze this year, I don't think you can make an argument anymore that something like the drama album cover doesn't fit with a maximalist image and style. But maybe there's some more nuance to the marketing and response within the fan base as well that can make BRAT a meme and drama just an album cover." Very interesting points, and I definitely wish I would have waited to make that video after BRAT, as I think this album has made waves way beyond the markets it was originally intending to. As far as the album cover itself being a meme though, I don't think that's the case, personally. I don't think the BRAT cover is a meme or was intended to be a meme, and I think it does a serviceable job at conveying the album's concept, and as a result of Charli XCX developing the album's concept, the color green and the blurry text design has transformed it into a meme on social media. It's a very successful album cover in that way. So what makes the BRAT album cover effective? And with that in mind, why am I still so critical of album covers like aespa's Drama, where noticeably more effort was put into the logo design at the very least? In my original video, and you don't have to watch it, I will summarize all of the points here, I came to the conclusion that of course album covers will always be subjective, as they are works of art in their own right, though I think the best universal standard we can have or expect is that the album cover comes to represent what the project is generally about or made for. It represents the narrative or concept behind the project, right? BRAT does this and so much more, in my opinion. If you remember on social media, when Charli XCX initially showcased the album cover ahead of the album's release, some people were not very happy about it. A tweet in particular that got a lot of traction using Charli XCX's album cover among others says, "Art directors must be on strike," to which Charli replied, "There is literally so much to say on this." And then she followed it up by saying, "I think the constant demand for access to women's bodies in our album artwork is misogynistic and boring." This happened 3 months before the album was released, I believe, and now in retrospect, this is exactly the sentiment that the BRAT album went to discuss in great detail, both lyrically and also conceptually. It's the intended minimal efforts put into the album cover, but also Charli making a point to wear sunglasses in almost every interview and public appearance, essentially shutting off access that the public has to the celebrity pop star. That, among many other things, is what BRAT's central narrative seems to be about. So we go back to the album cover, this very striking color of green and a blurry text line that reads the album's name. Despite it being so very close to gross or extreme minimalism, the design choices and lack thereof present you with an idea that is expanded upon throughout the album. The lack of effort in this album cover is very intentional. By finishing the album and experiencing it in full, you can take another look at the album cover and fully understand why it is what it is. Charli XCX works to present a narrative about herself, but also the idea of the public's access to a pop star in general. Charli does not consider herself a likely candidate to be a main pop star. She suffers from imposter syndrome, tends to be jealous of other people, and all of those ideas come together to represent BRAT. And again, you look at the album cover and piece together why it's so abrasively minimalistic. All of this is to say, you cannot necessarily do that with Drama's album cover. It's the logo and the signature color red, but not enough context was added throughout the album's development that explains the cover being what it is. Savage does the better job, in my opinion. Despite not having a linear answer about what exactly we're looking at, it at the very least gives you a visual soundscape that matches with what you hear on the album. The Savage album sounds and also looks as if we're somewhere in Kwangya. Another good example to sort of round this discussion out is BTS's Love Yourself series of album covers. In all of their minimalism, they do work together to represent many different ideas. There's intention behind the album covers. As far as what kind of flowers are being depicted, what that means to represent each of the members, how the design of the album covers fits together like a puzzle, and so on. There is conceptual intention behind it. I guess all of this is to say, and with the BRAT album in mind, minimalism is not necessarily our enemy here when it comes to album covers. There are always going to be people who subjectively enjoy a certain style of album cover, people who prefer maximalism, but I don't think that should limit artists from their artistic vision. If they want to go in a more minimalistic direction, I think they should be allowed to do so. BRAT makes a lot of sense as an album cover in retrospect in a way that isn't always apparent for album covers like Drama. I still don't really have an idea behind the decision making of Drama's album cover with the album's concept in mind, right? In the end, of course, all of this is still very, very subjective, but if I had to give a definitive statement about this, I would say that the best album covers are the ones where enough concept work is done to establish the album cover's design to the idea or narrative behind an album. BRAT, despite its minimalism, is one of the best album covers in recent time, in my opinion, for this reason. I guess in the end, I would argue that just because it's minimalistic doesn't mean that it's inherently boring or underwhelming, because there is quite a complex story behind why this album cover is what it is, definitely. Hopefully, I explained my understanding of this in a way that makes sense. I think that's all from me. Definitely let me know what you think about this. What are your thoughts when it comes to album covers? What do you look for or expect? And so on. Thanks for watching this. If you did, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.